Welcome back to the Flying G Huddle. We are back for season number 2. I'm Casey Campbell. I'm your host. Pleased to be joined, as always, by Gladwin head football coach Mark Jarsfer. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back in the saddle. Football is getting close to starting again, so we're enjoying it.
Yeah. Before we get into questions, I'd like to first off welcome the audience back, and we'll take you through the entire 2024 season. Win or lose, this guy has agreed to come on every week. So I know it was pretty successful last year, and I'd like to take this time to thank all of you for watching this show. It was pretty fun. It was pretty fun for me to do, and it was fun for, I think, the people of Gladwin to watch their team. There's nothing like going out on a Friday night to Gladwin to go see the Flying G's play.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And we have one of the most supportive communities around, and so when Brockoff Field fills up for a game, there's no other place like it.
absolutely. All right. So why don't you tell the audience what Gladwin football has been up to over the last few months?
Yeah, so we started our off-season strength and conditioning program back in early January, like we always do, with our primary focus in that phase being just to get these guys as big and strong as we possibly can. And then, as we get to June, the focus shifts from trying to pack on as much strength as we can into functional movement and getting them, to be able to move laterally and add speed and that kind of stuff. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. We have used a few of our camp dates that the MHSA allows us to have, the 15 dates over the summer for team activities. I think we're at 3 or 4 so far. And so, we've been busy for sure. And it's just going to get busier as we head into the season.
Yeah. Okay. So let's ask the $1 million question. What a lot of these viewers would like to know: what is Gladwin football going to be like in 2024?
It'll certainly be different. We had a big senior class outgoing last year, as well as the year before. So I think we've lost right around 35 guys off from our roster over the past 2 years. And so that's a lot of experience, a lot of success, and we are bringing back a few guys, 4 returners on offense and 6 guys on defense, and a bunch of other guys that have played a lot of good minutes in reserve roles and been around that kind of success at practice and those sorts of things. And so we're certainly optimistic and believe that we have a really high potential to do some special things. But there's a lot to be sorted out between now and August 29th.
Absolutely. So we'll go through the schedule, and we'll talk about a lot of the changes happening to the Jack Pine Conference later on in this episode. So stay tuned. But now we're going to talk about this team and all the people that are coming back. We'll go through all the position groups and all that fun stuff. We'll break it down in about four different categories. Let's start with the skill positions with the quarterback, running back, and receivers and tight ends.
Yeah, so that's really where all of our guys are coming back on offense. Start that off. Colt Finnegar coming back this year as a junior quarterback. He started, the good part of last year as a sophomore, replacing Nick Wheeler after that state championship run. And given those shoes to fill, did a really nice job. We started off on a 6-game win streak, and he did a lot of really nice things in there. And now he's just a year older and a year more comfortable in our offense. And we really have, turn the offense over to him, and we're expecting big things. So excited about that. At the running back position, we have Preston Willert, who split time starting at running back last year. Again, he was just a sophomore as well. And so he's also going into his junior year. Really has added on a lot of good strength and muscle over the course of our off season, and is just a downhill physical type of runner. And so excited about that as well. Moving to the outside, Jaden Miskey is come back as one of our split receivers. We always joke with him that he's an academic weapon because he's a 4.0 student in the classroom, and very high IQ football player and just sports player in general. But this year we really do believe that he can be a weapon for us on offense as well, and so excited about him. And then to kind of round out the returner the last of the returners from our skill guys on offense is Trace Corlew. And, he had a phenomenal year last year. This is going to be his fourth year on the varsity team. And, he was a weapon regardless of where he lined up last year, whether it was running back, slot receiver, split receiver, unbelievable feet, unbelievable speed. His strength is, second to none. And he's somebody that we would anticipate is a high level college player at the next level as well.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's talk about maybe the younger guys at the skill positions. Maybe who are some of the guys that are really impressing you there?
Yeah. And so, over the course of the couple dates that we've had so far this summer, there's, certainly been some guys that look like they can fill some of those spots. Brady Dickinson, he was a starter on defense for us last year, and got used sparingly on offense as a junior. And this year he's going into a senior year, and so we would expect a bigger workload for him, probably at the slot position for us. Somebody we're excited about. Drake Ross is another one that's played a lot of football. He's going into his senior year this year as well. He's traveled all over the United States playing 7-on-7, and really had a lot of minutes playing football. And so another high IQ guy that we're hopeful can step in and fill that role of an outside receiver. And the nice thing is too is last year he repped at outside receiver. He's repped at slot, and so he gives us some flexibility there as well. Some of the younger guys, Logan Walters is going to be a sophomore this year. He was the JV quarterback last year. He can come up and give us some minutes in the slot, and serve as another quarterback for us if the situation were to arise where that was needed. Somebody like Cruz Balsarac has looked good so far in his reps over the course of the summer. Shifty, speedy guy that's only going to be a sophomore. Bronson Bigham is coming in as a freshman, as an outside wide receiver. A kid that's new to our program. He's going to be a senior, coming over from soccer actually, is Isaac Wheeler. And he's a big time hockey player. He is a phenomenal soccer player, just a really good athlete. And we've been, pretty excited about the things that he's been able to do over the course of the summer as well.
All right, let's go to the guys to watch and the returners on the offensive and defensive line.
So on the offensive line, we have no returners. So that's 5 new positions there. But there's certainly been a large number of guys getting reps in there, and it's just going to be a good, healthy competition to kind of see who can win out some of those spots. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to be 7, 8 guys deep there in case of injuries and that sort of thing. And so just to give you a few names. Matthew Lechner, he started some time on our defensive line last year. Strong, athletic, smart kid. He'll find a spot somewhere on our offensive line, undoubtedly. Caden Reed is our biggest, strongest kid on our roster. He's like 6'5", 260 if I were just taking a stab in the dark. And so that size combined with his strength, is going to bode well for him, I would assume. Harvey Grove, I guess technically could be considered a returning offensive lineman. He played tight end for us last year, from the midway point to the end of the season. Did a nice job. He was only a freshman. He's a lot bigger, a lot stronger this year. And I'm assuming, just with the need that we have on the interior of our offensive line, he'll find a place somewhere along there. Peyton Koshorik is only going to be a junior. Did a nice job on the JV team last year. And he, is another multi-sport athlete like a lot of these guys. And, it's fun to watch him play baseball and basketball and those sorts of things, and kind of get your imagination going on how that athleticism is going to translate onto the offensive line. Jackson McKinnon, another one that's really, had a good JV season and has improved his strength quite a bit. Max Bars is going to be a sophomore this year. Another big, strong kid that can move pretty well and likes to be aggressive. Those are all good traits that you look for in an offensive line. And then Gunnar Smith going into his senior year, he missed all of his junior year last year with an injury. But he's top two, top three strongest guy in our program as well. And so he got a lot of reps on the JV team the year before the injury, and so we're hoping that he can kind of pick back up, where he left off on that JV team and help us along the way as well. Couple incoming freshmen. We have a really good incoming freshman class that's experienced a lot of success over the course of their youth program career. And a couple of those guys are Mark Molesworth and Carson Reed, both really big kids that have been working hard and doing a nice job in the limited reps that they've had. So through those 7-8 guys that I named off, I'm hopeful that we'll find 5, 6, 7, 8 good ones that can give us depth and give us a good offensive line to start the year.
All right, let's go to the defensive line. I know it could be a lot of the similar guys that you just named.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. The one returner that we do have coming back on the defensive line is Matthew Lechner. Like I said, he played some time at Nose. I could see him bumping all along the defensive line. We play a three front, up there, and so like I mentioned, offensively, he's just big, strong, athletic, and has really done a nice job. Improving all of those areas going into his senior year. And he's going to have to be a leader for us on the offense and defensive line. Outside of that, it's going to be, all of those same guys in the mix. Caden Reed, Gunnar Smith, kind of nose tackle types, just the big, strong guys. And then you start to look at, like Bars and Kashorik and other guys like that and hope that they are able to fill in. And that would be the nice part too, about having 7-8 guys that are well versed, is that if fatigue starts setting in or things like that, you can hopefully be able to swap them out on offense and defense and not miss a beat. And so a lot of that is going to depend on how the rest of the summer goes, and then those first couple of weeks of practice, and hopefully we get a good rotation and depth chart hammered out fairly early on and can have some good success with it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the linebackers and secondary.
Yeah, so with our linebackers, we have 2 returners, which again we play a 3-4, multiple defense, and so the first one is again going to be some familiar names from the offensive side of the ball, like many rural schools have to do, and so Preston Willert started as an inside linebacker last year as a sophomore. He's just a really aggressive linebacker, phenomenal with his reads, takes the film work and stuff like that really serious, and undoubtedly going to be a leader on our defense, and we're excited to have him in the middle. Harvey Grove started as a freshman at outside linebacker last year. He'll be moving likely to the strong side linebacker position in our defense this year, taking over for Braden Ritchie. And he did a really nice job last year, as I mentioned, on the offensive side of the ball. He's done a good job and proven his strength and those sorts of things. He's gained a lot of good weight, and just another year under his belt is for sure going to bode well for him and for us. And then other guys that we're going to have to count on at some of those other spots are going to be kind of up in the air. Mason Meyer has done a good job for us so far, kind of messing around at outside linebacker. He was somebody that had a really good year for us last year before his injury at kind of the midpoint of the year, and playing DB and safety, and so he'd be moving up a level in this scenario, and we're hopeful that that'll do some things for us. Talon Goodwin is another one that has looked good so far this offseason at linebacker in the inside. He's gained a lot of weight from last year. He also had an injury that ended his season last year. And so, we'll just have to see where he kind of picks up once we get pads on and stuff. But so far, everything's been encouraging. Jackson McKinnon is another one that I've already talked about, but he'll be kind of in the mix for some linebacker play. Matthew Crandall, Jacob Hurst. There's various other guys that are competing for these positions, and time will tell kind of how those things play out.
Yeah. Okay, special teams because there's going to be a new person kicking the ball.
Yeah, I would anticipate, Eric Rogo coming back into our program. He was somebody that kicked as on the JV team as a sophomore and had a lot of success. And then he did fill in for Trayton on the varsity team as well for a couple games when Trayton had some like hip flexor type soreness. And so, he didn't play last year because of Trayton obviously being firmly secure in that kicking spot for us. But he would have to play on the JV again, and with being a soccer guy, playing on the JV team and playing varsity soccer games, there's a lot of conflict and stuff like that. And so, I don't think it really would have been worth it for him with that schedule. But he's somebody that we're excited about. If he comes out and goes through it, he has a lot of potential, and that's a super important phase of the game. So hopefully he'll be able to do a nice job for us.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's a look at the Gladwin team. Now it's time, as I promised, let's take a look at the schedule. Now, of course, let's talk about this before I go through the current the 2024 schedule. It's going to look a little different.
Yeah, it'll look a little bit different with a few new additions into our league and a new week one opponent, non-conference. So we're excited about it. It's tough. It's as tough as it's ever been since I've been in Gladwin. But that's kind of what we have always prided ourselves on is anytime there's an opening in our schedule, we try to pick up a top tier team and just kind of go with the philosophy that iron sharpens iron. And so, I've had people ask me before, like, hey, what if you make this schedule too tough and you don't get in the playoffs? Well, in my mind, you don't belong in the playoffs then because you're not beating playoff teams. And so we make it tough, and it'll be fun to coach this schedule week in and week out, just knowing that there's no games off. I mean, every game I would anticipate could be within a couple scores, and the days of seeing wide wide margins of victory are likely over. And so we're really excited for it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's go through the schedule. It is there are some changes as I mentioned. August 29th, well, of course, Gladwin will open up at home against Flint Carman Ainsworth. And then on September 6th, home against Beaverton, where they will try to get Butch back. September 13th at Ogama Heights. September 20th, home against Clare. September 27th at Standish Sterling. October 4th, home against Shepherd. October 11th at Midland Bullock Creek. October 18th, that opponent is not set yet. Of course, that is the crossover game for the Jack Pine Conference. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then, of course, finishing out the regular season, October 25th at Frankenmuth. Okay, so pretty good schedule. A lot, as I said, a lot of new teams in the mix. The Jack Pine Conference kind of went through a little bit of a makeover, and so there's more teams coming in to the fold. Of course, you open the season with Ogama Heights as a non-conference opponent. Of course, now they are in the conference. So, and of course, starting the season at home against Flint Carman Ainsworth. That's got to be there. But kind of talk about this schedule and some of the changes that happened during the offseason with the conference.
Yeah, so Flint Carman Ainsworth is going to be a tremendous challenge for us, right out of the gate, and so that's kind of where our focus has been. In the Huddle clips and stuff like that that we've been able to see on them, they look extremely athletic and like they have good size and that sort of thing. So that'll be a really tough matchup for us to start. I believe they're a Division II school this year. I don't know their exact enrollment, but I believe it's north of 1,000. And so, it's just another one of those big challenges for us. And so excited about that. Beaverton, like you mentioned, battle for Butch. Got to get him back home where he belongs. And so it was nice that we were able to, even though Beaverton will be on the other side of the Jack Pine Conference, it was nice that we were able to ink a non-conference deal with them. One of the oldest rivalries in the state. So excited to keep that going week 2. Ogama Heights, we've had some really, really tough battles with them. As you mentioned, we opened the season with them last year, and won by like a score week 1. And then in the playoffs, they were the team that ended our season last year, and that was by a score. And so every game is always tight with Ogama, just a tough physical team. Great addition to the Jack Pine. Claire is always a battle. That just kind of goes without saying. They dominated the league for a very long time. They're super well coached, and they're going to be athletic as heck. And so I would anticipate that that'll be a really good battle for us. It's turned into quite the rivalry. And Steven and I are great friends. And so it certainly adds a whole element, and it's an exciting week to play. And then it's one of my least favorite as well, just because of all of those things mixed in. And so Standish Sterling is one of a long-standing rivalry, former NEMC opponent. And so there's been battles over the years, even as recently as the last few years, seeing them on the schedule week 8 or 9 in the last couple years. It was always a tough one. They're well coached. They've had a lot of success, since Coach Malcolm's been there, and even before. And so another great addition into the Jack Pine, in my opinion. Shepherd is another one of those teams that always has a lot of talent, and I know that they have a new coach over there, and so they could be just kind of that dark horse. You don't know what you're going to get until you start to see some film on them, and so kind of an unknown there, but always has a good amount of talent. And will be a challenge for sure. Bullet Creek, had a regional final run, I believe, last year. And so, you just start looking at these teams and it's like, man, there's a lot of success and history, and it's shaping up to be a really good season. Obviously, we won't know who we get in the crossover game week 8, but that's, it's going to be the first place team on our side versus the first place team on the other side, and then 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3, so on. And then we end the season with Frankenmuth, who obviously last year was a rematch of the state championship game. And they really just handed it to us. No bones about that. And so obviously a very uphill, battle to try to surmount them. They've certainly secured their spot as one of the top programs in the state over the last couple decades. I feel like they're in the semis or the finals every single year, and that's a heck of a way to end our regular season schedule. You mentioned the Jack Pine Conference realignment. The 3 new teams on our side of the conference are Ogama Heights, Standish Sterling, and Bullet Creek. And so, they're all tough opponents, as I alluded to, and it's going to be really interesting to see how the league shakes out on both sides. Quite frankly, it's just a good competitive league all the way around, and I think you'll see a lot of good football in the central northern Michigan area.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be an interesting season for the conference, and as well as for the team as well. Also, there is a more the Gladwin's been up to a lot of things during the off season. Of course, you guys also, the Gladwin football program is also taking over the middle school program as well. So kind of talk about that and how that's been going.
Yeah, so that's obviously a lot of work. Anytime that you're taking over, or offering a new school affiliated program, from hiring coaches to having those meetings, and well, you go back to the interview process and all of that, and then selecting them and meeting with them to start going over offense and defensive schemes, and trying to get them up to pace, and all the equipment stuff needs that start to go into that. And we're really excited about that. Our youth program has always done a phenomenal job for us. And this was just a good opportunity for us to, add another layer, into this program and kind of get them started on our schemes and philosophy and culture a few years earlier. And so we're excited for it. You know, that there's going to be the expectations of maintaining academics and that sort of stuff. You know, within the school, with it being school affiliated, and you know, being able to offer busing, and the games now are going to be played on Wednesdays as double headers, and so that kind of gives families their weekends back. And so, you know, like I mentioned before, our youth program has always done a great job, you know, preparing these kids for the high school level. But this was just an opportunity that I think made sense for the high school program and for the families involved, to kind of bring that down and include another few grades into our program.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this season preview edition of the Flying G Huddle. We're going to be, it'll be a while before you see us, before you see this show again. But we'll be around during, we may have something to kind of recap camp and all that, but we'll definitely be on the air probably around before week 1 to preview that first game against Flint Carmen Ainsworth, kind of give a recap on how camp went, and how everything is going to go. The 4-way scrimmage coming up, that's going to be fun. Yeah, so what's in store for the next 2 months, after really when we get into August and really when we get into camp?
Yeah. So to finish out our summer, as I mentioned earlier, you know, we have those 15 MHSAA dates that were provided for team activities of more than 7 kids. So when we can get our whole team together and do things, we've used 3 or 4 of them. So we got the rest of those still coming up here. I try to schedule, you know, just a couple to kind of sprinkle football stuff in June, and then you know, we really try to leave a lot of that time for our baseball and basketball programs to be able to work with their athletes as well. And then once we get into July, you know, it's kind of, you know, heavier into football. So we have a couple install dates, a couple 7-on-7, you know, things coming up. And then that second to last week in July will be a 5-day camp for us just at our place with our full program. And trying to get those guys really up to speed. And then we end our off season with a team camp down in Montrose that's run by Coach Anise and the staff at Fair State. You know, it's awesome for us. It's been one of the best things that we get to every summer. Tons of, you know, very talented players, tons of great coaches that help coach our kids throughout the various stations that are included in the camp. And it really is a good way, because we stay overnight, you know, downstate in a hotel, for us to have some team bonding opportunities and good coaching points and that sort of thing. So, you know, the bulk of the summer activities are still upcoming, and we're really excited about them, because, you know, a lot of times your season can be made in these next, you know, couple weeks going into the season. And so we're looking forward to it.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the season preview episode of the Flying G Huddle. Tune in the last week of August, when we'll preview that week 1 game against Flint Carmen Ainsworth, recap the summer, the 4-way scrimmage, all that fun stuff. It should be a fun season, and of course, it's always a good time to be a Flying G. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Casey.